Hello and welcome to the podcast, or welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and today quite a few things has happened in the last few days. So we had the Spanish Grand Prix on Sunday, which was very good. I really enjoyed it. But there's quite a lot to go over, to be fair. So we had practice on Friday, which was interesting. The McLarens looked rather quick with the new regulation change in the front flexi wing. So it reduced it by like 5 millimeters of like movement, I believe. It was either went down from 20 mil of movement to 15 or from 15 to 10. Can't really remember, but it didn't really make much of a difference. So the teams were told about this regulation change, I believe, back in November, because Red Bull weren't happy about it. And so the teams were given a date, which would have been the Spanish Grand Prix, not the Barcelona Grand Prix. Yeah, I can't remember if it was this. I've forgotten the name of this one, but I do apologise. But they had been told that they had to change it for this Grand Prix. It is Barcelona. I completely lost my marbles then. I was like, is it Barcelona? But it's Barcelona something, but also known as the Spanish Grand Prix. And it was a good race. And like I was saying, they were told that they couldn't change, that they had to change their wings and they had to, try and sort this issue out with this front wing, because some teams believe that's why McLaren were doing so well, was because of their flexi wing. But as we saw this weekend, it wasn't the case. But that wasn't really the talk of the weekend. The talk of the weekend was what happened about 6 laps towards the end of the race between Max Verstappen, George Russell and Charles Leclerc. So there was a safety car towards the end of the race, if you didn't watch it. So I'm going to explain to you it very, very badly, I guess. But there was a safety car because Kimi Antonelli's car engine broke down. So he drove off into the gravel. Then they had to safety car it because there was a crane, a movable crane thing on the track. As we know in the past, there's been incidences with those vehicles, so they have to take precautions with a safety car. So we had a safety car, and all the cars huddled back up. All the cars which were lapped had to unlap themselves, and everyone pitted and changed their tyres. So Red Bull at that time had already pitted twice, and the other cars have only pitted once. So not everyone, I think it was another person who did a 2-stopper, but the Red Bulls didn't really plan for this by the sounds of it, by the looks of how it went. And the only tyre they had left, which they could use at their disposal, even though they had a fresh-ish red tyre on, which I think the tyres were only 8 or 6 laps old, very young red tyres, soft tyres, sorry, red or soft, however you want to call them. But every other car changed. So I think Ferrari had a fresh set of reds. I think McLaren may have had like semi-scrubbed ones, and so Red Bull were like, all right, Max, come into the pits. Max wasn't told what tyre he was about to go in and put on his car, and they put white tyres, hard tyres on. And as he left the pit lane, he said, what tyres have you just put on my car? And they said, hard, Max. And he was like, why have you put hards on my car? Is it going to be hard? I was like, well, that's all we had. And it just didn't make any sense from the start of it. I don't understand why Red Bull brought Max in when he had soft tyres on. I know they were 6 to 8 laps old, but those hard tyres, nobody was using this race because they were so hard to use. They weren't good tyres for this race. It was either softs or mediums. I know the cars behind him had fresher tyres, but he was at the front of the grid. He didn't have to pit. And he pitted, and then so that pushed him back, and then he could have stayed at the front. So this is the second pit. So they pitted him on the second pit. He was in P1. They could have left him on those soft tyres. Well, I think it was softs for the rest of the race. I think it might be mediums actually. I can't really remember, but he would have been fine. But they pitted him onto hards. He had Charles Leclerc behind him on softs, who was on P4, and you had Russell behind Leclerc. So they all come out on the safety car, all huddle up. Oscar pulls away brilliantly, pulls everyone away. But But Max has put his foot down. Those hard tyres aren't warmed up. They haven't got the grip in. Even though there was a few laps in the safety car, you still need a little bit more to like really grab those hard tyres. And his back end kicked out. He saved it lovely, but Leclerc saw an opportunity and he bombed it in the inside line. Max stayed on his line and so did Leclerc. Max was kind of pushing Leclerc towards like the marble bit of the track where all like the rubbery debris bit is to slow down his tyres. But Leclerc was committed to the racing line. So they kind of touched. It wasn't like a bad crash or like anything bad. It was like wheel-to-wheel bump and then they both dispersed and went on their way. But after that, Max is right behind, like beside Leclerc. George is to the right of Max, all very close. And George got a little bit of understeer. I think, it was understeer because of the turbulence that Leclerc was causing. He then crashed into Verstappen. Verstappen then had to go on the abort line where you can abort a corner and rejoin safely. He had to go onto that. And then he was driving, like nothing really was said. I can't remember if Max said anything at this point, but he was saying Leclerc needs to give me back my space because he was saying at the time, Leclerc kind of badly took his position, which was fine. He was just saying this to try, fear Ferrari. So Ferrari might have gone, oh shit, do we have to give Max our space back? As soon as that happened, Red Bull was saying, you need to give back George's space. So Max overtook George. And then Max is like, what? And he was like, just give it back, give the space back to George. This is Max's enemy on the grid, let's face it. They don't really seem to get on that well, which is funny. And Max was like, okay. And then as he kind of pulled over on the inside line of his corner to let George go on the outside. And as he went side by side with Max put his foot to the fucking floor and drove into George. And it looked very deliberate, like wheel-to-wheel bump. It was almost like to show to the stewards and to Red Bull that what George just did to me, I've just done to him a little bit more aggressively, a little bit more noticeable. And why am I getting penalised for it type thing? And he kind of saw red. He was already pissed off with what Red Bull had done to him with his tyre strat. Then he had George Russell and Leclerc bumping into him. And I don't think that helped. And then he saw red. He didn't get a black flag, but he got a 10-second penalty for what he did. And he's got 3 points on his super license. So he's got 11 out of 12 points. And I'm pretty sure he's got a couple more weeks, 4 more weeks until like some of these points get deducted. But if he gets 1 more point, and I believe when he's in Canada, his points, so he have 11 out of 12 for Canada. So he could, if he makes a mistake and he gets a penalty point during the Canadian Grand Prix, he could get a disqualification for the following race. He may not be able to race in it if he gets 1 more point. I don't think Max will. I think Max is a very calculated driver in some senses, unless he sees red. But I don't think Max would fuck it up in Canada. I think he'd just play risky. But then in the press interview after, the Sky commentator, I forgot her name, Rachel Brooks, I believe her name is, I think off the top of my head. She was asking about the race and what was the crash. And the thing what made Max's race really like kind of all tied it together, the big story of it was the crash. And Max did not want to talk about it. He was very good with his words, I must say. She asked him something along the lines of, how do you feel? Do you feel like you've let down the kids and the kid fans who watch on TV? Do you reckon you're setting a bad example to them? And he's like, I don't know. I don't really care. Like, he's doing his own race. Like, if kids are watching F1 and they think, oh yeah, this is how I go-kart and, but crash into people. Yeah, it's not a great thing, but at the same time, they are going to get told off for it. And I know people aren't going to look what Max done because people reacted. I reacted, so did my brother. We were watching it together. We were like, oh, fuck. Like, we were both like, oh, like when he was doing it. It was like, the kid's going to know that was bad and you shouldn't do it. But maybe it was like a little fucker out there. He's like, I want to be Max. And I don't know. But Max then said, after all of these questions with Rachel Brooke, he said something along the lines of, well, I know I'm not going to be able to win this world championship. I'm out of it. It's between the McLaren drivers, which I don't agree with just yet. Like, we're not even halfway through this season. I think we've got another 13 races or something left. So we're not even, maybe even more than that. Might even be a few more than that. But I think he's still in it. I do. And I think what's going on with McLaren drivers with Oscar and Lando, I think they are just going to keep, taking away points from one another. And it does give someone the opportunity to, potentially get a second place or maybe even a win just to shrink that gap, over time. But Max has kind of hanged his coat up and said it's over type thing. But I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. And who do I think is going to do? Oh, I've already said it. I think Oscar's going to win this season if he continues the way he's going. He's an incredible driver. He showed it this weekend, especially what happened last weekend in Monaco. So he had Lando do this incredible qualifying lap, and it kind of felt like Lando was proving a point. He was like, "No, I'm the number one driver. I've got this. Like, fuck you, Oscar." Type thing. He didn't say it. He didn't need to. It's just he kind of said it how he was driving. It was very good. But then the race itself was pretty bleak, boring from everyone. To be honest, it was a boring race. Monaco normally is, but the qualifying was fantastic. But he won the Monaco Grand Prix, and you kind of thought, oh, maybe he's trying to say to Oscar, hold your horses, mate. You're not number one. And Oscar's just come to this weekend being fucking rapid. He had the furthest distance away in pole the whole season. He led, I think he was in the lead of the qualifier by 0.2, which is the highest difference the whole season. He did it on his teammate. And I think Oscar's just like, well, cool, whatever. I'm still bet I'm going to win. And he did. And his drive the whole weekend just looked finesseful, if that's even a word. He had it covered the whole time. There was points, because my brother's a McLaren fan, he's a Lando fan, I'm an Oscar fan. I'm not really a McLaren fan, but I like Oscar. I think he's fucking world class. And my brother was saying, Lando's catching him, and you could see it, like the Amazon Prime or Amazon AWS was saying, look, he's in striking distance within 3 laps. I said, no way is he. And Mikey was like, yay. My brother's called Mikey, by the way. He said, no, he definitely is. Look, he's taken off a second off him in a lap and like half a second. I was like, that's bollocks. Like, Oscar's literally just holding onto his battery. We've seen this before. And as soon as Lando was kind of close, Oscar, which within like a lap or 2, gained like 2 seconds. And he was just like, whatever, mate. So he went from 2 to 4. And he just kept doing it. He was just like, listen, I'm not going to be pushing because I'm reserving my tyres, but come at me, bro. And he just showed that he had that race in full control this weekend. So Oscar deserves a huge bit of credit for how he drove this weekend. So I don't think a lot of people were really giving him the credit he really deserves. But he's fucking good. He's got that Max attitude when it comes to fuck you on the track. But he's very calculated and he's very calm. He doesn't get angry. I haven't really seen him get angry. Showed a bit of emotions after the race, like showing a fist pump and, smiling, which is great. I love seeing that from Oscar. And he had his sister there this weekend, if you're wondering who the fuck Sky were putting the camera on quite a lot of time during the race in the grid. That was Oscar Piastri's sister, and I believe her boyfriend. So if that's what you're interested in, there you go, a bit of information for you. But he was just calm. Nothing seems to faze him. In the cool down room after with Leclerc, Piastri and Lando said something about Max's driving, and it looked like he said, it looks like something I would do playing Mario Kart, and I don't think he realised the microphones were on. So that was funny. They asked him after about, so what was that? What was the, why did you say about Mario Kart? And he's like, the microphone's on? Type thing. So that was quite funny from Lando. But I take my hat off to the drivers this weekend as well, because everyone was asked about the Max Verstappen incident with George and all of that, and no one's really come forward. Not even George has even come forward and said Max should get a disqualification. That was bad. Like, no one said really anything. And I take my hat off to the rest of the fucking grid, because I thought, well, maybe they're just going to shut on Max, but they didn't. They were like, what's that rule? snitches get stitches. And I feel like all of them were like, well, we don't need to stitch on Max. Like, he's a very honest driver. Sometimes. I guess they all are sometimes. But yeah, I was surprised with it. And then Leclerc was asked about the little bump him and Max had, and he said it was just an incident, which was quite a nice homage to when they were younger during their karting seasons. But yeah, it was an entertaining race. I think the beginning of the race was pretty bland. It was more to do with the tyre strategy of this race more than anything, and how different teams had different strategies, which was really cool. And I thought that was cool. And I thought that was quite interesting, especially people are getting a bit bored with the hard tyres, and they've definitely made the hard tyres pretty shit, which is great. It was a couple of years ago, people just go like one stops them hard and just made the whole some of the races so boring. So it's nice to see that they've actually made the hard tyres shit. And also, before I forget to mention, Hulkenberg P5, incredible. I think it's one of his best he's ever had. Amazing stuff. And he did it in a fucking kick Sauber, which is fucking funny. But incredible drive from him, and great strategy from their team. But the thing I really want to talk about was what happened in qualifying with Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll, after Q3, I believe it was Q1, the first one, not Q3, the first one, Q1. He came back, he didn't have a great score time, and instead of going to get weighed, he went straight through, and you can't do that, so he got disqualified after doing that. And then shortly after, he's saying he's pulling out of the Grand Prix tomorrow because he had a bad wrist. So he had this mountain bike or road bike crash 2 years ago, and he came back really quickly. It didn't really seem like he had much of a recovery time. I remember when he came back, he was moaning about his wrist, and I think he had to retire a couple of times because of wrist pain. But it's just a bit ironic because apparently he swore at his team when he came back from qualifying, even though at the end of the day, it's his fault, not the fucking team's fault. You're the guy behind the fucking wheel, mate. Don't blame the team. Again, all allegedly. And then, because he got disqualified, he was just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna fuck off. I don't want to race tomorrow, type thing. But people are saying, no, he's going to get his wrist checked, and people are saying he is, and all of that. I don't think he may have, but I also think he's using it as an scapegoat because he was throwing a bit of a paddy because he had such a shit qualifier again. Alonso got his first couple points. Well, he got 2 points this weekend, which was great to see Alonso get some points, but he just got out-qualified from his teammate again. He's dog shit. And there was a video with this epic music going on with last week with Adrian Newey looking at the McLaren car. He's holding his pen and paper, looking at the car from behind the barriers, and people saying this is epic. Aston Martin world champions and all of this in the future, he's going to create a god and all of this. I was like, you guys, all of you guys who are all about Adrian Newey producing a great car, he is going to produce a great car, but who's really going to do it? It's either going to be Fernando Alonso, unless Max Verstappen goes there, and it ain't going to be Stroll. Stroll's not in the equation at all. He isn't. And I think people kind of forget, but what if Alonso hits next year, which I don't think is going to happen, but he is old. I'm not saying if you're at his age, you can't drive. Of course you can drive at any age until you get to 75. I think you should, retake your test, because I think there's a lot of bad drivers on the road, especially in the UK, when they get around 75 or 70. All they want to do is go to Waitrose from where I live. Around there's a Waitrose going towards this main city whereabouts I live. And they just drive so slowly. I'm like, fuck off. I know you got to get to places, but you're annoying. Someone could be behind us, need to get to the hospital, and you're driving like a fucking twat. Fuck off. People should retake their test. But anyway, I also think Lance Stroll should retake his test, because fuck me, he's got no spatial awareness. But again, I'm going around and around in circles here about Lance Stroll. He really jeopardised another driver if his wrist was actually hurting, because Aston Martin had come out and said, yeah, he's been really struggling with his wrist pain the last few weeks. He's literally midway through a triple header. Why didn't they, before the triple header, go, Stroll, go and get your wrist sorted. We're going to get a rookie in your seat, or even like Valtteri Bottas, or someone who we can just grab in and just test how shit you are. Because now he's going off to, apparently he's gone to Switzerland or Geneva, I think it was, or whatever it was, to get his wrist checked and all of this over before the Canadian Grand Prix. I don't want him to race it. I don't. I want someone else to race in his car for a few races and see how they get on, because Stroll just, I just don't buy it. I've never have. People talked about him when did he get P3 in the Williams or something, and that's like the best he's ever done. And I'm like, okay, cool. That was years ago. I digress. I just think he's just a bit of a silly man, and I don't think he should be in an F1 car. So yeah, that happened as well this weekend. But yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to Canada. Can be quite a boring race, Canada, in my opinion, just like Spain can be quite a boring race. But last year I was very disappointed with Canada, and that's probably why I'm saying it could be a boring race, because last year they had an absolute shocker. But didn't Carlos Sainz have like a power unit issue? And didn't Leclerc maybe have the same? They kept losing power. I can't, one of the two things, but my heart broke last year at the Canadian Grand Prix, so I'm not really looking forward to this one. But it might be really good. And Jacques Villeneuve, if he's there, he's such a pillar. I know he was a winner of 97, world champion, but he just chats absolute shit. He had Nico Rosberg there this weekend in Spain, and he was fantastic. He needs to be the Sky presenter. If you don't watch Sky, in the UK, we have like Sky, and they're like the main broadcasters of sport. And they had Nico Rosberg talking, and he's brilliant. Him and Jenson Button, amazing commentators. They need to use him more often. And he was saying some incredible stuff during the race, during the qualifying, and it's good, really, really good commentary from Nico. And I just think he's incredible. I think he's a really good person to have on the panel. He's a world champion. He's been there. He's beat Lewis Hamilton. Remember this? He beat Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery, and then he retired. And he beat Michael Schumacher in the same machinery of him. I'm not saying Nico Rosberg's the best of all time, but if you're gonna say, I say Michael Schumacher's the best of all time, and you got Max Verstappen. You've got your Sennas. You've got your James Hunts, and you've got other people who you may consider some of the best of all time. You've got Niki Lauda and all of that. But I put Max and Michael there as my two GOATs. But Nico Rosberg beat Michael Schumacher, and he's beat Lewis, like I just said. But if Michael, back in his prime, I reckon he would have beaten him. But he's great, and he knows his shit. And he was going through the whole qualifying and a race, talking about all that wasn't great. He didn't hit the apex. This is going to jeopardize his time a little bit. And he was really, really insightful. And I think he was a really great addition to the Sky broadcasting team this weekend. And it was great. It was a privilege to listen to and to watch. And it was overall, it was kind of like two races in one. We had the main race, the first 50 laps, maybe 48 laps. And then when we had the safety car, I think that was about right, it became a sprint race. And it was great. It was really good fun. And yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty decent race, like 7 out of 10. Very, very enjoyable. Yeah, hopefully the next one's a good one. And if anything happens from now on to the Canadian Grand Prix, I'm going to try and watch the 24 hours of Le Mans. Not all of it, because fuck me, I need to get some sleep. But that's on the same weekend, I believe, as the Canadian Grand Prix. So sign me the fuck up. We got practice on Saturday this week. So yeah, hopefully it should be a good Le Mans, and hopefully Ferrari get a second win in a row. That'd be great. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you all, hopefully, on the next one. If you enjoyed this podcast and me rambling, there's many more on my Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. There's loads. And hopefully I can create a bit of a story so you can follow them. So if you want to feel free, well, hopefully, if you want to, go and check them out. I don't want to be a sellout and say this. I do this for free. I don't get paid. And I just thought, may help the channel grow. But anyway, thank you very much if you've listened to all of this. I appreciate you, and have a lovely day. Take care. All the best. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Red Line Racing